Good evening, everybody. This is the regular meeting of the City of Saginaw Planning Commission. Normally, we would have site plans or site plan approvals to be presented this evening, but I see that we don't have any of those on the agenda. When the first case is called, we ask that you come to the podium, give your name, address, please speak loudly and clearly for the clerk so he can register that. And the first call of duty this evening would be roll call, followed by approval of last month's minutes, and then he will call your agenda item up, and then at that time you'll speak. All right?
Zawerko,
Present.
Nash,
Present.
Jones,
Here.
Taggett, Doan,
Here.
Nightingale,
Present.
Dolores, Hanley.
Here.
Thank you. All right. First up, I'd like to hear a motion to approve last month's meeting notes that were mailed to us. Is there a motion to approve last month's?
I move we approve minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Under new business, the first item is Dolores McKinney from New ERA to make a presentation.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank the board for allowing us to present today and the supporters that are here in support of our initiative. My name is Dolores McKinney, address 2501 Matson Lane, Saginaw, Michigan, 48601. This evening we are here for our second time to request your support for the Central Downtown Design charrette planning process. Want to reinforce that our process does not change any existing, or we're trying to reinvent the wheel. It really augments the existing things that are exciting and going on here in the city of Saginaw. It does work in the confinement of the existing master plan. Our existing master plan is an overall guide, and the things that we're implementing are a little more detailed and specific through the charrette planning process. I think the greatest difference for us in the charrette planning process is not only are we planning, we're planning with the entire community, all the stakeholders. And it's a very strategic planning process that engages all stakeholders. And once we're done with this plan, the caveat, which is very challenging and difficult for most plans, is they kind of fall by the wayside once the plan has been put together. And what New Era has committed is to implement several of the things that come out of the charrette. Whether it's a restaurant, whether it's retail, we have committed financially to back and support to ensure that throughout our planning process, because this isn't a 1 year, this is something that will continually be done to regenerate the area and enhance the area. We will phase in different projects at different times. So I think that's the uniqueness that we're able to bring to the table with the group of people that live in the city are putting together. On behalf of New Era, we would like to know if you have any questions from the documentations that you have. We're very transparent. We're very open. This is a very community-oriented program for all stakeholders. Every venue we have is really run by the community people. We're just kind of laying out a system for them. So if you have any questions on any of the documentation you have, I'm more than willing to answer them at this time.
Question?
You go. Yes. Can
you expand a little on what the application for the charrette is? What's involved in that?
It's a basic application that provides the history on the city of Saginaw. It provides elements and details of the history of Saginaw. We put in there all the support letters that we've received. That's a really huge item, those support letters, because the thing that you don't want to do with the charrette is do something that no one wants to do. And as you see, we have many supporters in that effort. But basically, we're laying out the history of Saginaw, what's here existing now, and and what we're trying to do. We put all of our members in there also. But it's a basic application. It's not anything that's technical by any means.
Is the AIA an organization that approves these or certifies these, or what exactly happens there?
What AIA does, they will take on your application and they will decide amongst the thousands of applications that they get throughout the course of a year, and they'll make a determination whether your project is worthy of them facilitating the endeavor.
Does that imply or mean that they are paying for whatever costs are?
There are costs involved with this endeavor, yes.
Who pays that?
New Era has committed to paying those fees.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
Because, you know, we went through this once before, and was there a target of where this is supposed to be located yet, or?
There's a area that we're looking at. It's like it's if you take central Genesee and Washington, and I can provide those maps for you. It's like a 2-block radius going each way up Genesee and Washington. And that's just a target area. The steering committee that was formed recently after charrette training last week, which comprises of about 50 people that are citizens from this area, they will ultimately decide and maybe even compress that area because you don't want to get too out of scope. But that will also be refined also. But there was potentially a 2-block distance on each side of Genesee, and then 1 block to 1.5 blocks on Genesee itself. That was the corridor that we were looking at there.
To place this sports complex?
No, that's a totally different project. The sports complex is what New Era has committed to bringing these projects to the table. The planning process is just, it complements. Give you an example. If Cal Ripken said they're coming here, that's definite. But the thing is, they gave us 3 objections, and one was that it has to be a comprehensive development program. He can't be the only guy in town. You have to have the hotels. You have to have the retail. And they're going to help us plan this. So we have to do that in order to capture the dollars. When you look at the $12 million impact, if we don't have it here in the city, where does it go? It goes to the outlying areas. And we need to capture those dollars here in the city of Saginaw. And every project that we've done, we will only do it in the city of Saginaw. We're not trying to go to the county. Our commitment is to bring projects that create jobs and tax revenues for the city of Saginaw.
Okay.
And Ripken is one project that we've been able to bring to fruition. We have 4 others in the pipeline. And so we feel very good about this first project being a winner for us, for this community.
Excuse me? Do you currently have any projects that are in force at this time or that are viable at this time?
Well, we worked on several projects of this nature. We've never run them, and that's why we have folks like AIA. We have the experts coming to the table. But as a construction firm, I'm doing work at the Pentagon right now, at the Naval Academy, at all the military bases, and we do this kind of thing all the time.
But locally, there are no projects at this time currently under this umbrella.
Oh, there is. Right
there
now,
are?
Michigan's doing one in Lansing. It's a 21-mile stretch with the same people that we're using. The NCI charrette people are engaging in there, and it's a 21-mile charrette for those guys.
And this is in Lansing.
Jim
But-
Tischler's running that one in Lansing. Bay City had one toward the end of last year, which was in the local newspaper. Very successful for them also. The charrette process is becoming a very, very common process to use, because what it does is it engages all the stakeholders up front, so there's really few issues on the back end, because everyone was at the table. Whether their ideas were accepted, at least they were heard. And I think that's what people want at the end of the day.
Question. You said Ripken is committed to this?
Ripken is committed as long as we have a comprehensive development where he's not the only one here. We're obtaining funding. There were 3 items. And we have an operating agreement in place. We have the operating agreement in place, and we're right now working on the funding.
Okay, that gets into some of the detail that I feel like I need to know much more about.
But we're not coming here for
Operating
support on
agreement
Ripken. We're coming here for support. Ripken's a total different. Ripken is just one project that we're bringing to the table. The charrette is the planning. We don't want to really get them confused. But
I
we want to-
understand those are 2 separate
Okay.
things.
Go ahead.
But what's the level of Cal Ripken at this point? I mean, if we're talking about building this kind of facility on a 60-acre parcel, how much does that cost? Who Hey,
I
let's-
can't go into the Ripken project. We haven't acquired the land. We're working with the city on that, and I apologize for that, but we are working on land control. We're working with Mishto on some things that are under confidentiality agreements. So once we do get all those things in place, we're gonna come and lay it out for you. As we told you, we're transparent. If you attend the meetings and get involved, we don't hold anything back. Once we agree on the location for Ripken, we will have a major release. Actually, they will be in town on August the 27th at the Saginaw Club, and they're going to do the final feasibility presentation because we're open and transparent. We want you to come. We want you
Okay,
to know
good, that
about
was
it.
another question I had.
Yeah, we want you to know. We've always been open. We always have an event for the people, the common citizens, and then we have one behind.
27th
Yes,
at where?
at the Saginaw Club. And we welcome you to that event. We just need you to RSVP because they do need to know how many people are going to be attending that event.
So, I guess the question we have now is that you're looking for similar to the letters that we have here, a letter of support saying that we support the project as the planning commission. Is that correct? As this proposal on this design charrette. Is that correct?
Correct. The reason why we have to have that is because Mr. Early said before he could take it to council and get there, he would like to see planning approve it in DDA. And we received DDA's approval in March of 2013. You're correct.
You see, what is somewhat confusing, was confusing to me, and maybe to Mr. Doan also, is the packet of information that we got is almost totally devoted to the Ripken experience. And
Well,
so what you're telling us is that what you're asking for is support for for the whole process of developing an economic plan for that particular region of the Genesee, Washington area. And that the Ripken experience, the whole Ripken thing is a separate thing. You're not asking for us to endorse that at this time.
Correct. But what I think we gave you some information the first go around. We had the first presentation, which was 100% charrette. Now we're saying,
right.
now it's all working together. Now we have a viable project. We have to have a development plan in order to get it to come here. So you're correct, sir, yes. And we will present to you once Ripken, we find a location, all the documents are in place, we have a certain percentage of financing, we will come back to you, we will present, we'll work very close with you. We're not trying to work outside the parameters of what the city of Saginaw has.
Are you asking us tonight to support continuing this process, or what? What exactly?
We're asking for your support to continue the design charrette here in the city of Saginaw with the citizens of Saginaw so that we can present to council.
I went on the NCI website this afternoon to learn more about the charrette system, and under the frequently asked questions was one about the cost. And there were some pretty big numbers there. Do you have an idea at this point what it might cost here and who that would?
We're at about
Who would pay that?
$75,000, and I've actually, to date, I've spent probably about $200,000 just getting to where we are today. And I'm committed to funding the charrette, and again, committed to investing in some of the things that come out of the charrette.
Then, with all that work and all that investment, how are you compensated for doing all that?
Well, you know, when I came to town, I'll tell you a story, Jim, I began to donate money. And what I realized is all the money that I began to donate to these nonprofits was going into a black hole because there was no sustainability. So I sat back and I said, what can I do to insist and help with a sustainability plan? So instead of giving someone fish, I said, let's teach them how to fish. And this is my way of giving back to this community that I grew up in, that I've been here for years. My whole family here was from this area. My grandfather was the mayor here in town years ago. And this is just my way of giving back.
Any other questions? We're on the first item, which is the charrette process. Any other questions from the commissioners? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, at this time, we'll open it up to the audience, and anybody in the audience who can come to the podium. Again, I'd like you to please state your name and your address for the clerk.
My name is Gary Loster. I live at 2502 Van Eden Street, City of Saginaw. Long time involved in the City of Saginaw. I support wholeheartedly this program. It will be beneficial for the City of Saginaw. I was out in Salt Lake City several weeks ago for the charrette in Salt Lake City. It has worked in Bay City, in several other locations. And the fact of the matter is that something that's good for the city, the people, development, employment, should be supported. And what we're talking about here is the planning process. Now, after having been in that position where you are, as the former mayor of the city, we have never had to go through the process. We simply want support for the process going forward so that we have a viable and a sustainable community. And I know that you want that as well. This young lady has worked very hard, has spent her own money, has come to the City of Saginaw, where she was born, by the way, has returned to make a difference. The only thing that she's asking for, and I can tell you this, the charrette training that we went through, were a number of people within the community, diverse people within the community from all colors, all segments, who participated in the charrette training program over 3 days, were excited about the potential of what could happen, Mr. Chairman, in this community. With the City of Saginaw having the crime issues that we have now, with the economic development not taking place, we need to make sure that we have a community that's sustainable, that we employ people, that they have a quality life, that they're able to work in the City of Saginaw. And let me say this, as I look at the potential of the program that she's talking about, it will benefit other areas as well, but the primary emphasis on the City of Saginaw. So I would ask that you would support the process that we're talking about in November. It will help. I believe it will certainly make it sustainable in terms of jobs, economic development, and then it will spur other growth within the community itself. So I would ask on behalf of the citizens of this community, and there are a number of them who are not able to be here this evening who support this process, and I know that you certainly want to do it as well. Good to see you, Jim.
Thank you.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Jimmy Green. I reside at 4591 Spurwood Drive, Saginaw, 48603 in the township. I'm here on behalf, I'm the CEO and president for Associated Builders and Contractors, and we represent builders and contractors and developers throughout City of Saginaw and 28 other counties here in the state of Michigan. And I'm here primarily on a personal note and a professional note. First of all, it's rare that you can get in a room the strange kind of bedfellows that traditionally are politically opposed. And when I say that, I'm talking purely on a political standpoint, that from a builder standpoint, we've met and convened. That would be Spence Brothers, Wall Gas Construction. The larger contractors here in this community certainly support this kind of endeavor, primarily because it means jobs. And we can all put down our political weapons to look at the greater good, which is, of course, the development of Saginaw. We all have a vested interest in it. It's personal, it's business, but we need to see these kind of things happen. On the personal side of this, the one thing that I find glaring, and when I look at what Ms. McKinney's proposal entailed, she met specifically with us as contractors and trainers and said, you know, how can we train, how can we create an avenue for young folks to get involved? We had expressed, and I expressed to Ms. McKinney, that part of these jobs that we see in the City of Saginaw we don't see our young people engaged in, and for a lot of different reasons, very few of those political, quite frankly, most educational, none malicious, but we don't see young minorities in particular getting into skilled trades. That's problematic because there may be some caveats, there may be some policies that will involve getting young minorities involved in some of these projects. Well, when you look at, when you look out there, there are none to be had. So what Ms. McKinney has supported is a program here in the city of Saginaw designed to do exactly that. We're meeting with the city of Saginaw schools. We're meeting with groups like Saginaw County Business Education Partnership, First Ward. We have 60 kids coming from First Ward out to our facility in Midland, mind you, on Thursday just to get a taste of what this training process is. Ms. McKinney has supported this endeavor, understanding that these kids don't have a vehicle to discern what's union and what's non-union. At the end of the day, they want to work. And we need to look at every opportunity to provide homegrown talent in some of these projects, whether that's Ms. McKinney's or anybody else's. There are a lot of people looking at the city of Saginaw for development. You've heard it, we've all read it in the paper, and quite frankly, this city needs a ray of hope. And there's a lot of the negative stuff out there in regards to city management and police and fire. This is a really good opportunity for grown-ups to kind of get out of the way of kids and start shining a ray of sunshine. And I think developments like this really need to be led by city leaders like yourselves, and again, supporting a process. And that's essentially what we're talking about here, when everybody involved in this piece is really, really supportive. I don't know how much me and Gary, former Mayor Loster, would sit in a room and ever agree on, but I bet we would sit here and agree 100% wholeheartedly without any debate that this is a really, really, really good thing for the city of Saginaw. So thank you for your time tonight.
My name is Mike Hanley. I live at 203 South Bates in the city of Saginaw, and I appear to you here in part tonight in my capacity as Bob Hanley's little brother. And I've sat at that table with you as well, and I applaud the work that you've done for the city of Saginaw. Just want to say a few words. When I first met Dolores McKinney, who I did serve with her grandfather as mayor pro tem, she told me a very short story. She said, "I'm from Saginaw, I went to college, I had to go away to make money, and I've done very, very well. But anybody that comes from Saginaw and comes back and sees the shape that it's in just wants to help make it better." So I've had a long relationship with her since then, in frequent contact, and I find her sincerity remarkable. She's been greeted with some suspicion in this town by people that think that there might be ulterior motives. I would say that the Bodnars, who have taken the bank off Eddie, have been greeted with some similar suspicions. I think that's a kind of a syndrome we need to get over as a community. We've got some angels among us. This charrette plan really would be better titled a Central Business District Economic Development Plan. Hopefully it produces specific action steps, because I know there's a frustration in this community as well, and I share it, that we've had master plans over the years that have gathered a lot of dust. The problem has been implementation, and it's a difficult thing everywhere. And there's no guarantee that this plan will be implemented, but I find more indication that this kind of planning process and this plan has hope to be implemented than the other ones, in part because this is a historic moment for Saginaw. If you think back over the last 15 years, really about a dozen, the first Shaheen building, MCVI, on Washington, the Washington Avenue Group, the Garber, occupying Garber's group, bringing his people in from Saginaw Township to occupy on Washington. Shaheen's second medical office on Washington. The credit union on Washington. The relocation of the AT&T Saginaw Township employees into their building. And I understand that's the biggest workforce they've got in the state, I'm told. It hasn't been proven to me, but I'm told that. And then the Bodnars purchasing the Bancroft and the Eddy, saying they're going to invest $4 to $5 million. And then Saginaw expatriate Dave Strauss, another angel for this community, comes back, does some work in the Old Town, and now I understand is going to propose to take over the southeast corner of Washington and Genesee. So this summer, along with the outdoor event center being built across the street from the Dow, we're going to be witnessing probably $10 to $12 million of investment in the very center of downtown right now. So I think it's a plan that in part takes advantage of that moment to create that compelling narrative. It's not a plan that says, let's bring back downtown. It's a plan that says, let's sharpen our focus because downtown is coming back. Let's get behind it and make the most of it. So I hope the Planning Commission will consider it. Oh, by the way, I also serve as the Vice Chair of the Downtown Development Authority. Chair of the County Commission, I don't appear in that capacity tonight, but I do want you to know that the Downtown Development Authority did endorse this plan unanimously, after being informed by the manager that the process would be come to the DDA, go to the Planning Commission, then come to the council, and I know that the mayor strongly supports this plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Gregory. I reside at 2507 Willard in the city of Saginaw. And I come before you as somebody who has been with the New Era community group since its inception, when Ms. McKinney first came to town and approached us with the idea about a year ago. The idea was just simply put, I come from you from this perspective as just the lay citizen participating in the process. And over the years, we've really felt like we've never had that opportunity to do it, especially young adults under the age of 40, like myself. We've always had the attitude or the perception that everything is done behind closed doors with specific agendas to benefit specific people. What Ms. McKinney said was that if we can create something by the community, for the community will support it. And I think that may have been the problem with any plan's lack of implementation in the past. We never really asked the community for their input so we could get the buy-in from the community. And I'm here to tell you, as a community member, the fact that we're being able to ask what our vision is, offer our input, and have it feel like we matter has us excited at a level where you never see young adults in this area. And there's a groundswell of young people in Old Town, in downtown, in the city who believe in it. And with the opportunity to participate, believe at a level that they've never believed before. So now that you have community support into the process of planning and dreaming and visioning, I would ask that this panel, this board, also give its support formally for the process, because we would want to know that as young people in this community who have purposefully decided not to move into the townships, we've decided to not go outside of Saginaw Public Schools, we've decided to live and reside and pay taxes here. We just want to know that the city doesn't take our efforts in vain, and that you are in concert with us in supporting this New Era process to build a better Saginaw in the future. Thank you.
My name is Chris Bohinski. I work at 110 North Washington at TSS Architects. Dolores came to us a few months ago to talk about the Ripken project and other things, and brought it to our attention that this could be a great thing for Saginaw and we should get involved in some way. And we've kind of done that as well as we could at this point. And as a lifelong resident of the county of Saginaw, not just the city of Saginaw, I do live in the township now. I finally see something positive happening as far as the potential for development in the city of Saginaw, and I think that this is a very good opportunity for everybody to be involved, give their input, and I really wholeheartedly hope that you guys support this effort. It's been a long time coming. I'm just going to be brief, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Do we have any more comments from the audience?
As many of you may know, I am a member of the Saginaw Board of Education, but I am here representing, being a citizen of the city of Saginaw. I reside at 2313 Willard, lifelong resident of the city of Saginaw. Grandparents actually own business in the city of Saginaw. And as one of the founders of New Era Community Group, Dolores and myself are really, really close friends. had the opportunity of going to high school together and playing basketball together, so we know what teamwork is all about. And when it comes to the community here in Saginaw, we know that hope needs to be brought to a city, to a community. Some of us make the decision to live in a community because we know that there's opportunities here in our community. And with the opportunity that has come forth before you tonight and what has come forth before us as citizens to participate in rebuilding our community, getting together with a planning process to dictate what the future will look like, not just for tomorrow, but for years to come, which will be our generation, making a change and a mark in the lives for generations to come. I think this is a great opportunity. I had the opportunity to bring in my granddaughter here because I know that one day maybe she might be sitting in that chair where you're sitting at. But if we don't bring hope to our community, who's going to bring it? And so New Era Community Group felt as though it was time to bring hope to our community. We saw fit that a change need to be made, and why not us? So this was a perfect time for you also to get involved and moving forward this opportunity for a charrette process, because without your support, we can't receive the City Council support. So I'm standing here before you today thanking you for your support of the charrette process and asking you all to also get involved in the charrette as we continue to move it forward. Thank you. Okay. Delana Spakes Allen.
Do we have any other comments from the audience? Thank you. Okay, now we'll open up for discussion amongst the commissioners. Okay.
Do you want a motion and discussion after the motion is made, or?
Okay. Do I hear a motion to support the charrette process and to have our staff draft a letter of support for Ms. McKinney?
A motion. I support it, what you said.
Thank you.
Exactly how you said it.
Do I hear a second?
Support.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion on this?
Can we be a little more precise about the wording of what we're going to say in the letter?
Okay.
Well, that would.
Or is it just going to be very general?
That would that be a staff?
Staff issue.
It's your letter of support. You tell us what you want to put in there, and we'll be glad to put it in.
Okay. So do you want that in form of a proposed, as the actual motion, or?
You don't have to tell us exactly the word for word, but just tell us how you want it framed.
Okay.
And we can email it to you all just for approval.
An approval after that, and then
Right.
we can send it off.
What would you suggest?
I just want to be sure what it says.
Okay.
Oh, you want to see it before it's
Yeah,
sent, right?
see it before you approve it. Well, I guess right now you're going to send it to us, and then we'll send it back with any additions, subtractions, or whatever, and then send it out, correct?
Yeah, we'll include it with the information that we send to the city council.
Okay. All right. Does that satisfy that?
Was the wording that Mr. Doan suggested, has that been decided? I didn't hear anything from the staff.
No, they're going to draft it, and then they're going to email it to us, and then we're going to add any additions or subtractions and send it back. And then you're going to email the actual final draft, and we'll say, okay, go with it.
Is there anything you want us to include in there specifically first, though?
Well, I guess right now that we support the process, and I guess I'd have to go and see what we're going to put together. Maybe we can get together afterwards, and we'll just
Okay.
discuss it, and then we'll send that out. Okay. All right. So, with that said, we had the motion, we have a support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Thank you.
We're voting before we actually know what we're voting on.
Well, we've supported the letter, and what's going to happen is they're going to send the letter to us, then
I'd
we're...
rather see the letter before I vote.
You want to see the letter before you vote?
I don't want to vote for something that I haven't seen the actual wording to.
So, okay,
Well, I understood that we were going to get a chance
right,
To see it.
to
We're
see it and then say, yes, fine, or no, not fine.
exactly.
Can we do it that way?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we're going to see the letter before they even send it out. We're supporting the process, but the actual letter is going to go to you before it's even sent to council or the
The
actual...
letter has the wording of what we were voting on, correct?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Then are we putting the horse behind the cart?
Well,
No.
not really,
No?
because you're going to have opportunity to have additions or subtractions to that letter of support.
What you are voting on is to support the process.
To
I
support
mean,
the process, not the letter.
Right.
We're going to approve the letter once it comes to us.
The issue is whether or not we support the process. So we voted
To support the process, exactly.
The letter of support is not going to change the fact that we've supported the process.
Correct.
Exactly.
So I don't know why the wording of the letter is a critical issue at this point.
I want to see the wording of the letter.
You want to see
We all
the-
should want to see the
Right,
wording of the letter.
exactly. And I thought that's what we had just agreed to.
We did.
Okay, all right, we're going to see the letter before it goes out to anybody.
But we support the process.
We support the process, and that's what we voted on. And I guess we all approved it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are we ready? Can we go to the next item, or do we still have?
Good with me.
Okay, all right.
I don't think we have ever voted on something that was incomplete.
Well,
Is that-
it's.
Is that your thought, Mr. Doan?
was the
No.
big-
No, it's not? Then I'm wrong.
Well, no, that means you're wrong. It just means we have a different opinion.
I'll rest my case.
Okay. All right, at this time, we're moving into the public meeting portion, and that is to talk about the alterations and
You just lost everybody.
okay, there's our public.
Where did they go? We can't do that, can we?
Yes, we can do that. All right, this is our public meeting. Our public meeting is to talk about the actual changes, the additions, and the modifications to the Riverfront Mixed-Use District that was added last month. And that was when we had talked about single-family dwellings was added along with grandfathered buildings, and that would have been under housing, item 3, single-family dwellings as described in section 153.021 in existence of date of ordinance shall be allowed to continue as permitted use, including the availability to reconstruct, repair, restore, or use any building or structure if damaged by fire, collapse, explosion, acts of God, or acts of public enemy. So, and that was for this actual district that we had, we were trying to combine and care for under this overlay. So we weren't going to have the overlays like we had before, correct? We're done with that now.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you have any public comments?
Obviously not.
Obviously not, since the public left. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out a couple of things.
What's that?
The first thing is that I think this addresses the main comments from the last meeting. this existing single-family residences will now be a permitted use. So everything that's allowed in that district, you can do whatever you need, build garages, additions to the house, they would be allowed. Now, in that section of the ordinance, what it does say is that the single-family residences will have to meet the setback requirements of an R1 district. Because in the RMU district, there are no setbacks. But with the single-family residences, you would still need the 20 feet front yard setback, the side yard setbacks, setbacks regarding accessory buildings. But it would be a permitted use.
That falls under the R1 specification. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Mike, in your bold type on the second page, talking about this, do I understand that repair, restoration, reconstruction is permitted only if there's damage by fire, collapse, explosion, that?
Those are some of the things, but as a permitted use, you would also be able to have the accessory buildings, you would be able to build an addition to the property. The only requirements would be the same as what an R1 district requires. In an R1 district, you can only cover 40% of the lot in buildings. That would be a requirement of this. But as long as the 40% is met, the setbacks from the R1 is met, any additions, repairs, accessory buildings would be allowed.
But not only as a result of fire, collapse, explosion, I mean?
No,
Okay.
those are just other reasons that you could rebuild, is that if any of those things happen.
The way this is worded, it almost sounds to me like we're saying these are permitted uses if, well, it does say, if damaged by fire collapse. So if we're only really intending that to be an example, maybe that language ought to be.
Well, but as a permitted use, we're saying that it is a permitted use, and you can meet, if you can meet all of those requirements, you can do whatever you want there. But then it goes on to say, including the ability to do those things in case of a fire.
Oh, I
The
see.
reason,
I see.
the reason that's put in there is that in a lot of cases, if it was a non-conforming use and the building burnt down, you would
Yeah.
not be able to rebuild.
I see, I didn't pick up on that prior sentence. Okay.
Yeah, I think the last time we met as well, we were concerned that you could build a house at all if there's a vacant piece of land. This is addressing that as well.
Well, you still cannot build a single-family residence.
Still could not.
Could not, because that's not the purpose of the
Okay.
RMU
All right,
district. But what we're doing is we're protecting
Existing
the-
people that are there.
The people that already have those
Okay,
uses.
all right.
The homeowners that are there.
And as was pointed out by Commissioner Taggett, a lot of those are historical houses, or a good number of them are. And we don't want to lose those.
No. That's true. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the Riverfront Mixed-Use District?
So moved. Support.
We'll need two motions. We'll need a zoning text amendment and a zoning map amendment. We're changing the map.
I'll get into that. There is another step to it, but if
Okay,
you
so
want
when
to
we
do
do this
part-
part
This is the
first.
zoning text amendment.
Okay, the zoning text amendment, okay. Okay, who was the motion to approve?
Commissioner Caloris made the motion.
Okay, who
I
supported? Okay, all right. Do we have any discussion on that? All in favor? Aye. Okay, what's our second part now? The actual approval of the map?
Yeah, and I want to point that out to you. I mentioned last month that there were going to be some minor changes to the map, And the reason for those changes was to match the future land use map of the city. It's in the master plan. None of the area on the west side of the river changed. The main changes were along Washington, we went about 1,000 feet further east, went up to the north. This kind of follows some of the property lines and subdivision lines, over to Jefferson Avenue and straight up. This all stayed the same until we got over to Genesee. And I took out about 4 blocks here on East Genesee that just kind of went down there for no real apparent reason. All of this area will be taken back to whatever the zoning was before. In this case, it would be B2. The other area that changed is in the past, the map went up to Potter Street and over, and now we're ending it at 675. And then over to the river. So those are the only changes that we have.
Okay. All right,
And
do
I
I,
didn't think you wanted to see the whole legal description, but it follows this one.
Mike, that property just north, are those the railroad tracks that kind of east-west running, is that Potter Street?
Potter Street is up here. So the railroad line kind of runs over here and then crosses.
Oh, okay, all right. And that, the street below it is what, Genesee?
This street is 675.
The 675.
Right.
And as I recall, during the last planning session that we exercised, that was all designated a green zone. How does this affect that designation?
It does not affect it at all. Actually, the green zone is just a term. There's nothing in this area that has been zoned differently than what it was before. The green zone is a term that has been used by city officials to kind of say that we don't want any future development. But there has not been any changes in the zoning, because otherwise you may be affecting the single-family residences that are up here and the churches that are up here. The idea, in the long run, the idea is if things get demolished, we're not going to rebuild there. But it hasn't, that green zone has not changed anything and has absolutely no effect on the.
But part of it is designated RMU though.
Not presently, not under this map.
That isn't on the east side of the river?
This is not RMU here. The RMU line is right here.
You're right, excuse me. Thank you.
all right, do we hear a motion to approve the actual RMU zoning map?
Motion to approve.
Do I hear a Thank you. All in discussion on the map? Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
There's one other item, if you go
Oh,
through
Lord.
the agenda or
There
the
is?
communication. I made one other change that I was asking you to do. It was an oversight on my part. Under special approval for the RMU, I wanted to add nursery schools, day nurseries, and child care centers.
Under which, Bill?
That's
Yeah,
at
where?
the bottom of page 2. It's the other part that's in bold.
Oh,
That was something that we did not discuss last month, but in looking it over, we wanted the opportunity, because there are a couple of child care centers already in this RMU district. So we wanted the opportunity for there to be more, as long as they meet the requirements that you set for them under special approval.
Subject to site standards.
So this is the last thing?
Oh, okay. You did approve the amendment as,
Right.
I just wanted to point that
Right.
out to you.
So we're all set now? Okay, we're set with that. Okay. All right.
Oh, I have one other item. We're one member short on the planning commission, and if you guys have any ideas of someone else that we could approach or someone that would fill out an application, we'd love to hear from you.
They have to be a City of Saginaw resident?
Yes.
We're short one city representative, are we not?
Right, it can be a city representative, or it could be appointed by the city managers, is the requirement.
Why is
So-
it taking so long? We've been without that for quite a while.
So we had a couple proposals for some residents or from some employees, but they're non-residents. And since it has to be a resident of the city, if you have any other ideas.
And we
The
have
city
no other.
representative has to be a resident?
Yes, because the other, one doesn't and one does, but we already, our one appointee already is a non-resident, so we have to have a resident of the city.
So we need a city resident
City resident.
working for the city.
Doesn't have to be an employee of the city. It's
Just
a
someone-
city manager designee, so he can appoint anyone that's, he
Oh, I
feels
was
fit.
referring to the city's other designee.
Yes,
So where does it say that one has to be in and one out?
in the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Anyway, you're looking for one non-city employee,
No, one city employee.
Doesn't have.
one city
It
employee.
doesn't have to be an employee.
This,
Just has to be a city resident.
that the city manager appoints.
But we have no applications right now for the planning.
Well, I thought that's what you were talking about, and as I said, we've had this vacancy now for quite a while.
We were trying to get a city employee.
We had a city employee in mind, but then we found out that he did not live in the city, so it wasn't, we couldn't appoint him.
Okay. So we're looking for one more member, City of Saginaw resident. Doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be employee, as long as it's a resident. Okay.
It's in the ordinance, I guess.
So, is that the last item on the agenda?
Is that the last?
Is it, right,
Or
is it
the
the
last
last item?
item?
But first you have to sign this order.
Okay, all right. Can I adjourn? Do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Support?
All in favor?
Yes.
All right, thank you.